We're live. That was fast. That was a really fast load. There we go. Welcome to tonight's live discussion about the Journeyman actor. Oh, and I guess here we go. Already? Already. There we
Are you
go.
chat?
I have
What's happening?
the neat thing that we're going to try tonight is I have live chat open on the thing today. So if anybody wants to chat inside the YouTube browser right there, we can live chat. I can take questions live and we can do that. What I didn't realize is that the sound was up on the video in the background. And so now I know it's a 4-second delay between when we talk and when it's actually broadcast on the thing. If we cared about swearing, that'd be great for being able to buzz things out. But that being said, tonight's episode is unofficially brought to us by Pelican Brewing Company. Pelican. I enjoy drinking it. And if you do want to sponsor us, curtisanderson.com. Just leave a message right there. I believe we're also sponsored by Rosé and anything.
I'm just drinking water today. Just drinking water. Sorry.
What happened to
messed
Rosé
it all
all
up.
day, Renee?
I was making a joke and you went with it.
I am tonight. Your moderator will be drinking.
It's breakfast at Tiffany's cup of water instead.
That's fancy. That's fancy. And just
A true journeyman actor she was.
I know, right? In case you aren't already familiar with our panelists for the evening, of course, my wife, actress and singer Renee Bordelon.
Hello.
And actor Tony Robinette.
Hey, good to be back.
Yes, thank you very much for joining us, Tony. Now, when we first put out the call for participants for tonight's panel, we asked about 7 different working actors to be able to join us for tonight. And tonight's conversation is all about the dropping, the shrinking middle class of working actors in the television and film industry. And one of the things we're going to be talking about tonight is how much hustle has to go into the work now. And the people that we invited are doing their hustle. And so due to other commitments for table reads and rehearsals and preparing for auditions and things like that, they weren't able to join us. So I'm very grateful that my wife was able to be here with us and that Tony was able to be here in a break between things that he's doing. And so tonight we're going to discuss not only the current climate of what it's like to be a middle-class actor in this crazy industry, but also what you can do to try and alleviate the crunch. Because I remember, I mean, hell, I'm still going through those times where you work, you get that check, and then you're just living on residuals until you work that next time. And whether it means survival job or it means ramen, you got to do something to be able to fill that space. So before we begin, I do want to let them formally introduce themselves. Renee, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, my name is Renee. And that's silly. You all know that. He said it many times already. But I am an actress and I sing and I do stage and I've done some film and commercials and interactive dinner theater. I've kind of done a lot of different performing gigs, theme park stuff. So yeah, that's me.
And Tony, sir.
Hey there, everyone. My name is Tony Robinette. Like Renee, I've done it all too. Theme park gig. I've worked in Orlando. I've worked in New York. I've done national tours of stuff. I've done theater. I've done improv. I do dinner theater. Commercial guy. Co-star guy. Now I can put guest star on my resume.
Oh, not just guest star, sir. You're a recurring character. That is different. That is different.
Yes. So, in short, I think we've all been around the block a couple of times.
I think it's safe to say that we've all been passed around like a joint in this industry.
Yes.
When you've got the bug and it is your desire to perform, the actor acts, the writer writes, the director directs. And if you're not doing those things, then something is missing. So the definition of a journeyman There are two, actually, if you actually were to look up the definition inside a dictionary. There's one that's kind, and there's one that's not so kind. And a couple years ago, there was a very popular blog article that went around that discussed this very topic. And that was 2015. And they talked about the fact that people that were normally series regulars back in the heyday of network television were suddenly recurring. People that were recurring were now being considered guest stars. Guest stars were becoming co-stars, and co-stars were becoming one-lines. And the competition for those roles started getting a lot heavier, because all of a sudden there were film actors that were coming in and being television actors. And the people who used to have the bigger roles in television were suddenly starting to take the guest star roles. And this trickle-down effect started to affect the middle class of actor. So we've watched, as an entertainment community, as the middle class jobs that we were all used to, like commercials and voiceover and regular network television jobs, just started to dwindle. And there are over 700 television programs being created right now. It's more than have ever been created at any time in history in the entertainment industry. And yet the number of people that are working has also dropped. Now, I apologize, because I intended to have like exact specific stats to be able to deliver so that you had a really good idea. But unfortunately, those stats are really difficult to get. Now, what I can give you are stats that we had as of 1992. And that was that 15% of the Screen Actors Guild, this was before the merger, 15% of the Screen Actors Guild were able to claim that they made more than $5,000 a year. And it was only 3% that were making more than $30,000 a year. And it was that top 1% that was making, like Tom Cruise style money. Now, there is no reason to expect that these numbers would have changed, and I apologize that I don't have updated numbers. But anecdotally, we can confirm that there is less work being passed around now than there was before. I mean, there is a lot of work, but it's going to a fewer number of people, and this is for a variety of reasons. Mostly the fact that you have to guarantee an audience now. Audience numbers have dwindled. When I was in my heyday during Sabrina the Teenage Witch, we were a #1 show on ABC, especially for our demographic, and that was 11 to 20 million people an episode, right? Like it varied pretty big. Now you're lucky to get 7 to 11 million people watching you at a time, and there are YouTube channels that have 10 million people subscribed. So the fight for eyeballs is extraordinarily huge and really, really competitive. It's bloodthirsty. And so if you know that you can get a major celebrity, like you can get Robert De Niro to be on Law and Order, you're going to do it because you want the eyeballs, right? And I apologize. I'm just talking. Is this commentary... like, would you agree with what I'm saying, guys?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's
taking you in.
Well, and I think this kind of context is important, because there's the glamour idea of the job, right? Like, how many times have you talked to somebody who's been like, "Oh, I just want to be an actor. I want to be famous," and there are so many of those folks that get their dreams dashed when they find out that it's actually a whole lot of work and
very little glamour. Very little glamour.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, I was just discussing this with some people that aren't in the business, and yeah, it's a hard business. It's a really hard business. And even when you have the glamorous roles, if you're a lead or you're becoming a big star, that just amps up a lot of other things in your life that don't feel glamorous. Like, everyone just sees that they want to be a star, and they want to have their hair and makeup, and they want to have the fancy clothes and the big house and the big parts and the big star roles. But they don't think about how they're going to manage their money and the people they're going to have to hire to do that and to trust, or how the people who are coming out of the woodwork who's, either say they know them or want to tear them down with embarrassing stories or pictures or something from their past. And there's just so much stuff at every level that is so not glamorous or what you think it is. And I think a lot of people go into this business not really being aware of that, like that there never is a point where you're like, I have made it to the point where I'm just glamorous all the time and life is perfect and it's wonderful, because you're always striving. And when you do make it to the top, and I think Curtis was kind of pointing this out now, you might be there for like a minute, or you might be there for a longer time, but it's really hit or miss these days, and you might become a movie star and then 2 years later you're doing guest star roles on television. So it's crazy. It's kind of, Curtis has said this before, it's the Wild West out there, man. Like things are changing every day. There's a new mayor in town, there's a new star guy in town, there's a new sharpshooter, every day there's somebody new coming up, and everyone is fighting for those eyeballs and try to put on the best show, and to the point of, as we've all seen, just sometimes just complete ridiculousness that gets the eyeballs because it's so ridiculous, and that makes me sad. But yeah, there's just so many venues to do things, and they're all fighting. And I think it's good on one hand because you can make a lot of your own content on a lot of these things. But on the other hand, when is it when is it going to stop? And we can all just say, this is what we do, this is what we're doing, and these are the steps you have to take. Because right now it's like, there's no real rules and there's no real path anymore either in becoming an actor or performer these days.
No, it's like Curtis was saying earlier. When he was talking, I was immediately thinking about the Emmys the other night. I mean, Big Little Lies. I mean, look at everyone in that cast practically. I mean, what are they? They're film stars.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You got Reese Witherspoon. And it just won every single award,
all the awards that Handmaid's Tale didn't.
And all the awards that Feud didn't. Feud got nothing. But,
quiet, you.
But
that's what they get for not nominating Curtis, I'm just saying.
Exactly. But it was one of those situations where when you were talking, it's like, well, there's Nicole Kidman. She's now on TV. Great. There's Reese Witherspoon. She's now on TV. Fantastic. And now Robert De Niro's on TV. Oh, shit. So it's like those roles are now going to those people and to those stars who just make it more difficult for us. But that's what we want to see at the same time.
You're not wrong. And when we're talking about the path of the journeyman actor, like I was talking about the two definitions before, and let me lay those out for you really quick just so you have some context for it. So a journeyman is someone, traditionally it would be someone in a trade, like an electrician, carpenter, metal worker, something like that, who is extraordinarily skilled and has completed their apprenticeship and can now be considered for regular work. Now, over the decades and centuries, that has changed a little bit to where now a journeyman is considered someone of a particular craft who is considered highly skilled in that craft and can be considered reliable to have work for you. Now, that has degenerated a little bit to the point where people now consider a journeyman someone who is skilled enough, but might and is very reliable. Like, being reliable is a big part of the definition. But now a journeyman is considered reliable, but not necessarily the best. And unfortunately, I think we're seeing that definition take over the idea for the regular middle class actor. I remember the days, and they weren't that long ago, although they're shrinking, when the path to being a working class actor was go to a class. At the end of that class, there's a showcase. Agents come to that showcase, and they will select you to be a part of their roster. Then you start auditioning. You start eventually assuming that you are good and that you are you actually have the talent to be able to work. You'll get a co-star. Then eventually you'll start working guest stars. Like, there was a progression. Yeah. And even though it wasn't guaranteed in any way, shape, or form, it was there was a path. There was an accepted path. Just like if you're going to become an accountant, you go to college, you get your degree, you join up with a firm, and eventually you can open your own office. There was an understood kind of path that you could do. Then in 2005, YouTube showed up. Those of us that were a little bit older in the industry didn't think much of it, and we pay for that mistake now. Just like film actors are coming into television, against my better judgment, I am in film finance again, and just yesterday I had a conversation with one of the financiers that I work with, and one of the options to be able to guarantee film financing is to collect people with a social media following of 2 million or better. And if I can get people to rack up to that number and sign them, then I can get literally millions of dollars from investors who will just put their money behind something because they believe that several million people might consume that media, watch that film, watch that show. And that blows my mind.
I have an agent friend who is literally, he's a commercial agent. He literally posted today on Facebook that he's looking for new talent, and one of the prerequisites was a social media influence. And
wow.
The influencers are a big deal.
What does that, like, what is the minimum requirement for that, though? I mean, I'm 40 years old. I feel like I do social media just fine, but I love organic growth. Like, everybody that is on my Twitter or my fan page, the numbers aren't high, but they interact with me. You know what I mean? Like, I get engagement out of them. Like,
yeah.
what is required to say that you've got a social media influence, you know?
No clue. Maybe like 10K followers, 20K. I don't know, but you can also buy that.
I know you can.
It doesn't look organic, and you can actually, if you go through anybody's Twitter list of their followers, you can tell who was bought. Just because, I mean, you really can't, because a lot of times they have no face pictures. It's no pictures whatsoever, and it's just like, just robot accounts.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
that prerequisite is.
It's an astounding state of the system to know that. Okay, so to put it in, to like make a comparison, this happened to the music industry too after MP3 and file sharing really hit big. So there was a time in the 70s and 80s when if you wanted to be a rock star, then you just put together a killer demo with a group of killer musicians or, you know, your friends, whatever. And if somebody took a liking to you, they actually had funds set aside for development. And they would spend years developing a band to make them the best they could possibly be. And out of those years, we got some of the, you know, we got the classic rock that we listen to now on radio stations that has continued to play. I was watching a special on VH1 about Duran Duran, and in the first 15 minutes, their old management team talked about how, yeah, it was 3 guys, and we liked them, but they needed some help. So we developed them, right? So that development time used to exist. Then the CD market went away, and so did development funds. And so back in the late 90s and early 2000s, if you wanted a record deal, that meant that you had to be an established touring act that already had 10 to 25,000 fans or move that many units
Yeah.
to be able to even drop onto the radar at all. And so I think that we're seeing that now in the acting and video media industry, where there are so many different things being produced on minimal budgets or lower budgets, or, you know, there's just so much noise over the signal that agents, managers, producers, studios, they want to know that you're coming with an audience before they even put you on screen.
And they don't care because, in my opinion, that audience and those social media influencers, the flash in the pan is brighter, but it's a hell of a lot quicker too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, you're done. like, oh, there you are, you're popular for literally 15 minutes or one night, and then you're done. And that's when the journeymen are there to go, okay, we're here, and we are your workhorses. And you've actually used it, I think, before. Did you say like card carrier, like card carrying line workers?
Yeah.
I think you might have said something along those lines, like of the actors. And, we're there.
Sorry, Frankie is begging for treats for Renee.
Hi. Do you want to say hello? Hi, Frankie.
And that's our dog stealing all our thunder. There we go. We're having a serious conversation about the state of the entertainment industry, and then Frankie's just like, Frankie is super upset.
I'll probably get Instagram followers.
Frank,
he has his own account.
He has his own account.
There you go.
He's Frankie the Wonder Dog.
_ the Wonder Dog. There you go. But Tony, you're right. Like, if I say a name like Fred, who's watching those movies anymore? Even Miranda Sings, she just had a Netflix special, and it's not the bang flash, super success that I think everybody was kind of hoping for or expecting.
Yeah, I mean, I personally love the internet content right now. The internet content is great, but it feels like you have to sift through a lot of garbage in order to see something of quality. And I mean, you have your major ones like Hulu, original programming, Netflix, Amazon. I just did a show for Full Screen. They have amazing original programming. But other than that, it's, and the great thing is we can all make a movie with our cell phone nowadays. But then you put it up online, and if you just key in the right audience, all of a sudden you have 4 million hits.
Yeah.
So I think it helps the industry, and it also really hinders the industry as well.
Well, and that's one of the things that I think is really important. I know it's easy to get bitter and jaded, and I don't want us to come off that way, because it's just not true. One of the things that has made technology great is just the fact that although the middle class is shrinking, for a true acting hustler, the opportunities are there for you to be able to make the content and be able to be out there for yourself. Yeah. And now more than ever, the actor that wants to work needs to put themselves in a position of power and actually build your own content, or get a team together to make your own content. And just a reminder, if anybody has questions or wants to say anything, we do have the live chat on the YouTube channel. So if you do have any questions, just pop it in there. I am paying attention to it. I'm also paying attention to Facebook and Twitter, just in case anything comes through. But the Wild West days of the internet and personal broadcasting are not done yet. We are starting to see the corporate monetization of these things. And it's been happening for like the last 5 years. But the fact that you can still go out, create your own content, put it up on YouTube, Vimeo, a variety of different online sources. This is still happening. This is still an option for the up-and-coming actor or the journeyman actor if they just want to do something.
It's like the days of the podcast.
Yes.
Remember those days?
Right? Well, and they're still kind of happening, right? Do you have a podcast?
They still exist, but it's more like YouTube, and now Periscope is a huge thing too right now.
Now, personally, I haven't gotten that into Periscope just because it's I feel like my age is starting to catch up with me. I feel like the bandwidth of what I've got to be able to commit to is starting to show. Like, I understand social media. I dig Twitter. I dig Facebook. I dig YouTube and Instagram. Now I feel like I'm starting to sound like a 14-year-old, but I can't do the Snapchats. You know what I mean? The snappy chats is a little bit too much for me.
Yeah, I get it. I don't do it.
Yeah. You're younger than I am, though, Tony. You're supposed to get it, man.
Do Snapchat. It's just one of those. It's one of the few venues that I don't do. I don't do that.
Do you use the Periscope?
You know, I've tried using the Periscope, just like Facebook Live, and with Periscope, it's one of those things where my friend does a show, and I literally asked him about maybe me doing a show and what makes his show successful, and he said literally every week he sits out, he writes topics, and it's all audience engagement, just like on Facebook Live. It's like going, oh, hey, Renee, you're here. Hello, how's it going, Renee? Let me introduce Renee to the audience, and this is how I know Renee. And oh, there's her husband, Curtis. Now, Curtis did this, and so it's basically just a stream of conscious, conversation with people. But with Periscope, you have to sort of think of it as a late night talk show almost. If you want that crowd, he does giveaways. He has sponsors, and it's just crazy. It's like its own little production.
Nice. Well, and I think that that's something that we're going to start. We're going to start seeing more and more as the technology develops and as entertainment develops, is that it's going to be more audience engagement as we go. And so for the up-and-coming actor or the actor who's able to continue developing with the technology, being able to engage with the audience is going to be especially important. And knowing that how that works. For example, we've just got our first comment on the live chat, and it says, "I think you should take Rogaine for your receding hairline." So, it's not always that the audience is necessarily kind or pleasant, but we know that it's there. So at least they're watching, and when it comes down to it, that's what really matters.
That's all that matters.
If I donate $50, will you take off your hat for 1 minute so we can see your receding hairline? Wow, Tony. I will take their $50. I just don't know. Yeah. You can I will send you, you can PayPal to the address in here.
The name of the person, because it's probably one of my friends. Who knows?
It is under the name BB, so I don't know.
Yay for
it's possible they don't know you and they were just, concerned by the fact that you were wearing a hat. Sometimes people think that if you're wearing a hat, you're hiding something. But I don't think you're really hiding anything. I think you're just a styling dude.
Yeah, that's a pretty chill hat, yo.
I've enjoyed the pork pie lately.
It's a good hat.
Like
it's a good look on you. And Tony, I'll let you know if we do end up getting $50, 100% splitting it with you, buddy.
You know what? I say it goes towards this.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Send me a Pelican Ale.
Ladies and gentlemen, again, a reminder, our unofficial sponsor for tonight, Pelican Brewing Company. I'm enjoying their pre-prohibition cream ale. It's delicious. It's delightful. And if you can get it, I highly recommend it. And Pelican, if you're watching, hook a brother up.
Hook a brother up.
That's right. Now, one of the things that I did want to make sure that we discussed, because it's one thing to identify the problem, but identifying the problem isn't solving the problem. And I don't want to be somebody who just complains about something because that doesn't help. I want to make sure that people have a good idea about how to proceed, because it is still the best job in the world. Being able to play pretend for a living is something I still am committed to. I know Renee's committed to. I know you're committed to. I know that our friends who could not be here tonight are committed to.
Yeah.
So what are the things that you do, panel, to help make sure that you're still going forward towards your goal of being a working actor who just makes a living on the acting? I'll let anybody start who wants to start. I'll start. So when I stopped producing, when producing stopped being my full-time idea and gig, and I started going back to being talent full-time, my goal was to perform as much as possible, wherever possible, that provided a check that would clear. So that didn't mean that I didn't do free work, but I really kept that to a minimum. In fact, unfortunately, I missed out on a couple things that I would have liked to have done just because I wanted to be able to collect a check for my work. And that meant that I did any commercial I could get my hands on. I know that's not something everybody has access to, but I did, so I went for it. I did the dinner theater at Teatro Martini, where I met Tony in the first place. I was auditioning for every $100 a day job that was available on Actors Access and LA Casting, and just really kept up my submissions and started doing YouTube more to be able to take advantage of creating my own content. Now, there's still a lot of content that I want to create, but those are the things that I started doing just to make sure that there was something to do. Guys?
For me, it's always like, I think we discussed it before. It's like the side hustle, which this is a constant side hustle, because it's like, just in order to keep working, it's like, hey, I check in with my representation quite often. And when I say quite often, I don't think I annoy them. But maybe every month or so I check in, or I'll be like, hey, I'm on my way. Can I stop in just to say hi? You know, I do a lot of office stuff. I do a lot of database work. Sorry, there's a chopper right outside my window. I do a lot of database work. I do dinner theater. You know, I go to movies a lot. I just do a lot. I do whatever I can. Like you said, for a buck. You know, as long as I can keep myself open to the possibilities of doing stuff, which means having jobs that pay, that are flexible. So
jobs that pay, that are flexible, that's the key. Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, that's my big thing.
And just for the actors that may not be represented, because I know there are a lot of you who are getting started who may not be union, who do not have representation. Renee is currently without representation and non-union, but she made money for a good long time being a non-union commercial actor. You know, it's the rules don't necessarily change without representation and without being union. It just means that you've got to work that much harder because you are your own team. And it's really important to remember that nobody is going to fight harder for you than you are with your career. And so as much as I miss the days of the late 80s when I could just wait by the phone and it would ring and they'd be like, hey, can you work? And God, oh, I wish those days would return, but I don't think that's ever coming back. That's just not the industry anymore. Now, if you want to be a working actor, you have to hustle. And that means that you are signed up for Actors Access. You're signed up for LA Casting. You're signed up for Casting Frontier. If you're a theater actor or a musical actor, you've got the backstage account with you know, the ability to submit yourself. And I know those sites cost money, and whenever I advise new actors, I try to tell them spend as little as possible, but spend the money in the right spot. You've got two things that you need, and one of them is four things. You need really good headshots. You need good headshots, and I cannot emphasize that enough. Would you guys agree?
Yes.
Absolutely, and be careful out there, because as I have plenty of friends who do headshots. Any actor with an iPhone 7 can call themselves a headshot photographer. Do your research and go get good headshots. They're not $1,000.
No.
They're not $1,000. $100. You could probably find somebody in the LA area who's legit, who has like $150 special, if not $100 special. Headshot Truck is one of those
Headshot
places.
Truck.
Mhm.
And that is huge for commercial actors. Headshot Truck, even commercial agents love Headshot Truck photography. And if you have questions, up and coming actors or rookies or people who just don't feel like they're getting what they need, email me. It's on the website, or to comment here. And we have recommendations for really solid photographers who take good pictures that we have worked on. And in the end, that's what you want. You want pictures that will get you work. So if you have questions, don't be afraid to ask. We've got the recommendations, and we've made money because of them. So don't be afraid to do that.
And there's plenty of Facebook groups out there. If you don't want to come to us or whatever, there's plenty of Facebook groups out there that you can literally go, hey, has anybody heard of this ex-photographer?
Mm-hmm.
And I guarantee you the good and the bad will show up.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think what's really important is to do your own research. You can easily pay someone to do it for you, but you will get screwed in the long run.
It's really easy to do research on this sort of stuff now. I mean, you can do it on your phone, you can do it on your computer, but just Google like a name that you get from someone and see kind of what pops up. And sometimes just look up some photographers and look at their galleries. If they don't have a gallery, if they don't have a portfolio that's online, probably don't want to shoot with them if they have nothing that you can see online. If they do, and they should, then take a look at the pictures. Do they look good to you? Do they look professional? Do they look intriguing? Do you like the pictures? And then, ask around, get a few different recommendations from people. Ask, if anyone knows this person that you're thinking of going to, because that's how you learn in this business. Like, you have to get a local who's already kind of in it to give you some advice now and then. Curtis and I are in a different area, and we've just joined all the actor groups for Portland because we don't really know how things work here and who's who here. And, it's important to have those connections and to be a part of that community. Curtis asked what we were doing to keep in that, and I never answered that. You have to stay a part of the community, and you have to keep doing what you love to do. I'm not doing a show right now. I'm not taking classes right now, and it's making me a little batty. Like, we moved, there's a lot of stuff. We had to go on another trip back home. And so we've had a lot going on, and we're just now kind of really digging our heels in here. And so I want to take classes and I want to do that, but moving's expensive, y'all. Like, we have very little liquid income right now for that. So in the meantime, I'm looking for teachers. I'm getting the information down of who I maybe want to go and take classes with. And I've met people, and word of mouth, and, oh, you sing? Oh, so-and-so's a singer. Oh, as it turns out, she's like got her master's in this, and oh, she knows this person, and she actually teaches that, And it's a really small connected world. Once you find one person, they usually it's like a little spider web. You'll just keep finding more people. And at my day job, it's really slow sometimes. So I just do my vocal lessons. I do my warm-ups and my exercises. And then I sing some songs, and I go over some audition stuff that I used to sing. And I just try to keep that going while I can on my own. We're about to try and do another video, a music video that we've been wanting to do. And so that's a project that we can just do on our own. We don't need a budget. We don't need financing. We don't really need a big crew. So we're going to do that. I really want to do shows, but I feel like we've missed the big window for shows, and now it's all just like Christmas shows that are left. And I have no problem doing Christmas shows, but we also really need more liquid income. So it's like, find a job that pays more, or do a show. And can I find one where I can find that dream flexible job that allows you to still do what you want to do? And that's the goal, and that's what I'm trying to do. But I'm going to audition for some of the Christmas shows and just see what happens. But I'm also applying for day jobs, and serving jobs and stuff like that too. And yeah, that's all you can really do, is to just keep doing it in whatever way you can. Like, what's that phrase? Wherever you are, just take the next step that you can and just keep going. And whatever it is, you just have to keep doing it, and starting from wherever you are. And that's all you can really do, is just to do it all the time, and don't let go. As soon as you stop, it takes so long to get that momentum going again. It really does. It's really hard. I know from experience because I have stopped completely several times in my life, and getting going again it's such an uphill battle. And as Curtis has pointed out, the business keeps changing lately and fast. So each time you have to start again, you're like, okay, so what's it like now, and how to do, and okay, and figuring it out. And it's hard. You got to just stay in the loop, and you got to stay current. I strongly recommend doing as much as you can on social media, just not because you want to get followers, but just because it's a good platform to do stuff and try stuff out. It's really easy to make your own content and try things and see what works and what lands with people and what doesn't. And so, and if it gets you more followers, great. Because a lot of people that I follow on like Instagram or stuff, they end up getting like endorsement things and stuff. And there you go. That can help pay for your other stuff, whatever gets the job done. If you can get an audience big enough for that, more power to you, but also don't lose sight of what you really want to do. And I would, I'd like to say don't sell out, but I've never been offered to sell out. But well, I guess one time we were, Curtis, kind of more through you, and I did say no. I said, don't sell out.
It's true.
Stick to your guns. I think everyone, when they stick to what is authentically their thing, like if you sell out, quote unquote, that usually means that you're kind of trading in on, you aren't sticking to what you started out doing, right? And you just want to try and get a bigger audience, a bigger piece of that pie, a bigger amount of money. But I find that when people do that, sometimes it works out and they might become very successful. But I feel like I've seen a lot of people who are at our level, maybe a little lower, maybe a little higher, do that. It doesn't always work out well. Sometimes they really end up being like, well, that was a waste of time, and now I have to go back and try and start from the beginning again over here to build a more authentic thing again. And I think if you just stick to with what you want to do and do it well and do it all the time and create a platform of your own on social media, whether it's YouTube or Instagram or Periscope or any of these things, and just do it.
Excellent. Yeah. The other thing that I wanted to talk about that are required in addition to headshots is also that you do have to sign up for the casting websites. You just do, because they will help you as a unrepresented actor by getting you the access to any kind of real audition at all. But once you become represented, assuming that's your goal, and I'll be honest, you want representation of some kind, it just makes your life so much easier. They need those sites to be able to submit you now, because almost all submitting happens online now. It's not the old days of putting a picture in an envelope and sending it over with a messenger. Those days I do not miss, because that was a hustle. So yeah, you need the sites. So if budget is a concern, spend the $300 on your headshots, pick one of the sites and try it for a year or however long the term is, and see how it goes. And if that site doesn't work out, try one of the other ones. If you want to be a theatrical, which means television and film actor, I really recommend Actors Access, and that's actorsaccess.com. For $65 a year, you can submit yourself for as many projects as you can find that fit you. Otherwise, it's $2 per submission for a free account. Yep. So you're going to make that $65 is going to be made up in the first month. I promise you. When I first decided to start acting again, I got my Actors Access back up and running under my control, and paid the $63 at the time. And I made that up in 15 days, just in the number of submissions that I was able to put out. And that's for a relatively, like, I'm kind of a niche guy now. So it's not like if I had been in my mid-20s, I would have done that in like 3 days. You know what I mean? So yeah.
I just want to reiterate that the 4 sites that Curtis is saying, a lot of people who are new here think they're scams. I'm going to tell you right now, Actors Access, LA Casting, those 3 are not scams. You must be on them in order to be even on the map here. and he said Actors Access is perfect for theater and film. If you want to do smaller projects that most of them sometimes pay, LA Casting is great for commercial and very, very small projects. Sometimes you might get $50. Sometimes you might just get a gas stipend and free food. But that's what you need. You might need that. You might need that free meal here because it is a hustle city and you don't know where your next bowl of ramen's coming from.
It's true.
Because it's a tough town. So these 3 sites you must get on, period.
Everyone thinks they're a scam because you have to pay for them, and they're always told any kind of thing that representation that asks for money up front is a scam, which is true when it comes to like agents and managers. That is true. If you meet an agent manager and they are asking for money up front, then they are not reputable because they only get paid when you get paid. So like they get you work, you get paid, they get paid. That's how that works. So you should never pay them up front. But yes, photographers, you will pay for pictures, you will pay for these sites to get, to be able to be submitted easily. And that is totally legit. And that's, yeah. They're really great sites. They really are.
And I don't want to forget Backstage either, because I know that we have a lot of people that want to be in theater and do musicals that pay attention to these videos. Backstage is great, especially if you don't have a theater representative. It's really great. And I feel like we just cut you off, Tony.
No, not at all.
Okay, excellent. Excellent. All right, well, there we go. I want to make sure that we have a last-minute chance for anybody who has questions live on Facebook, Twitter, or the YouTubes to be able to pop that in. So I'm doing a last-minute check right now.
Your hairline is up for grabs. Let's do it.
Right? Right? Yeah, not for nothing, BB.
It doesn't
I'm still
seem
waiting for
like
that $50.
to me. I feel like you have a lot of hair.
I have a ton.
I think they were just taking a guess as to why you were wearing the hat.
Oh, gotcha.
At first I thought they were talking about Curtis, and I was like, his hairline really isn't receding, but maybe they think it is because they don't know him or something. I don't know. And then when they said to take off your hat, yeah.
Frankie's straight up making a mess behind you.
Yeah, I know.
I think
that's our boy.
But while we wait for those comments, I think the important thing is just to make sure you come prepared. Whether you're in Portland, whether you're in New York, whether you're in Orlando or LA, just be prepared. Have your toolbox and your belt on. So, yeah. I
agree. It's important to have good pictures, good training. Like don't come out without any kind of training or knowledge of how a set works or auditions work or anything like that. Because, I guess that wouldn't apply to the Journeyman actor. But for newbies, definitely get training. That's very important. Take some classes.
And always
do some free shows, do some plays, do some whatever, and do some stand-up open mic things, like work out your stuff, yeah.
Low-hanging fruit is still fruit. So if you go on LA Casting and you are putting yourself out there for stuff that you think, well, it's not what my agents are getting me, it's not going to be what your agents are getting you. And at the end of the day, green is green, money is money. So, and
experience is an experience, and you never know. Curtis did a small thing last year. Was it last year that you did that thing?
No.
For Fun Size? Was that 2 years ago?
I think it was 2 years ago now.
And 2 years later, that's working out really well for him. And he's got another opportunity with those people on a bigger project. So you can do something small with someone that you've never heard of. You could be anyone, a film student, even a student film. Student films are really fun, by the way. I mean, sometimes they can be a nightmare, but a lot of times they're really fun, and the people are so passionate still, and they're really excited. And and so yeah, work with small time quote unquote directors and producers and writers, because you never know what they're going to go off to do next. And once this is an industry based on relationships a lot, and if someone's worked with you, we were just at a woman in film little talk back last night for a friend of ours who did a film, and she was showing it up here. And she said, yeah, I have a group of people that I really like to work with, and I work with them again and again and again, as long as they're right for whatever the parts are, you know, but I like to work with these people. I know them, I trust them, they know how I work, it works out well, we collaborate well, it's a good team. And, you know, so find those people. And the only way you're going to find them is by doing this sort of stuff, doing smaller projects here and there, and meeting more people in the business and more people in the industry. And when they go on to do bigger things, they'll remember you and they'll bring you back. If they like you, if they want to work with you, if they enjoyed working with you, they're going to want to work with you again. So, you know, it may be low-hanging fruit, but it might get you up that ladder fastest, even without, you know, aside from your agent. You know, your agent can do what they can, but isn't it great when someone calls your agent directly and says, hey, I want to use this person, and your agent's like, oh, great. That's wonderful, you know? And so...
Yeah, nothing's better than direct to offer. Nothing's better than direct.
Well, and you're never too good for anything, you know? I mean, you know, read a script, make sure it's something that you believe in and that seems interesting to you. And, you know, obviously don't do something that you think you're going to hate. But yeah, do a small film if it sounds good, like a good part, something that you could have some fun with and get some experience and work out your stuff with, you know? For sure, do smaller stuff whenever you can. I mean, work is work and experience is an experience. And while you do want to get paid whenever possible, even if it isn't payment, even if it's just a copy of the thing for your reel, that's something. It is something. And if they truly cannot afford to pay you because they're a student film or a very, very super micro budget small film, then, you know, don't hold that against the project if you have the time. I mean, obviously you need to pay your rent, you need to do things, but if there's any way to work that out, you know, and it seems good, take it, do it.
Absolutely.
Any last minute advice you'd like to give to the up and coming actor as far as what it takes to be working, or, you know, just any general advice you want to give to people who I assume want to be, you know, the middle class actor regularly working, things like that?
Do the work to get the work. You have to do the work in order to get the work. And you get to define that. If it's working on your office skills as an actor, which is part of it, or your marketing skills, which is part of it, or your craft, going to class, which is part of it, just do it. Read a play. Find out who the auditioners are. Find out who your target audience is. What rooms you want to be into and get into. You've got to do the work because no one's going to do it for you, and just do the work. You know, that's my only advice, is just do it.
Absolutely. And I 100% echo your sentiments. When it comes down to it, yes, the acting middle class is shrinking, but the jobs are not gone. And everything in this world acts as a pendulum. There's feast, there's famine, and there's that very little in-between part. So patience, persistence, and consistency in the end will win the day. I also want to give a big ups to Elaine, Elaine Hayhurst, a friend of ours from Teatro Martini. She caught up with us about halfway through, and she's been enjoying it. Thank you very much, Elaine. We really appreciate you watching. If there's any advice that I can give to the up-and-coming actor or to the fellow journeyman actors who are just trying to make a buck and keep those bills paid, don't distress, don't fret, keep it up, and don't be proud. Do the work, man. Do the work. Just like Tony said, it's not a matter of being famous and being glamorous. If this is what you really want to do, if acting is the thing that you want to be doing, the actor acts and finds a way to act whenever they can in ways that they can. One of the things we're going to be talking about in another conversation is it's time to end the starving artist idea. And we'll get into the much bigger aspects of what goes along with that. Our next live discussion is actually an idea of Tony's, and we're going to be discussing the actor and the actor's ego. Because if there's one thing that gets in the way of more people than anything, it's themselves. It's
And
themselves.
We're all guilty of it. But there's ways around it.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. So tune in next Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Tony, I believe Renee, myself, and probably a couple other people, we'll announce when we know, are going to be talking about the actor and the actor's ego. Elaine says that we are great. Elaine, you are great. Thank you for commenting and for joining us this evening.
Thanks,
This video will be up on the YouTube channel, and of course you will see it on the social medias all over the place. Thank you very much for playing with us tonight. We'll talk to you soon.